Are you or a loved one perpetually online? If the answer to that question is yes, then you may be susceptible to what is called being an unequivocal moron. Now, the symptoms of being said unequivocal moron are such. You loudly and incorrectly blurt takes for no apparent reason. You say incoherent things all the time just for the attention. You constantly... Listen, I myself am somebody who has created a brand online. I've created this sort of personality for myself where, listen, nothing I say I don't believe. I believe everything that I say, no matter how incorrect it may end up being, but the reality is that when you are as online as somebody like me is, eventually you're going to say some things that just age terribly. Like, the best example is, take tonight. As of this recording, Bucks-Hawks Game 1 wrapped like 15 minutes ago. If you remember, I said in a video, I think it was, it might have been literally like 2 or 3 videos ago, I was like, Milwaukee is straight up running through Atlanta. Like, this series is a wrap. I would have said it if it was Philly, too. It wasn't exclusive to Atlanta. I thought that Milwaukee was going to run through either of those teams, and it was a wrap in 5. Yikes. But what happens next? What happens when you say something so incomprehensibly stupid that you almost can't even believe that you believed it in the first place, like I believed that Atlanta was just going to roll over? What do you do? Well, here's what you don't do. You don't do what... You don't do what Jay Williams did and say something so absurdly wrong, delete the tweet. I just can't believe that this is the route that he wants to go down. Like, imagine you yourself at home, you watching this video, laying in bed, looking at your phone. You gain access to Jay Williams' Twitter account, and not just the first, but the only thing that you decide to tweet is a congratulatory response to the Boston Celtics making a head coaching hire. But anyways, you have to own it. You just have to, look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, I need to learn from this, absorb new information, and create a new opinion. Where is the chase, and how do I cut to it? This really fun storyline emerged in the playoffs this year, and I think it was one that people latched themselves to because when players turn heel, it's like this really fun thing because you're like rooting for them, but like kind of rooting against them. So we created this narrative where like Trae Young was a villain, okay? It was mainly in the Knicks series. Was it literally, I think it was Game 1 or it was Game 2, where there was like that still of him like looking at the crowd and everyone's like, boo, Trae Young, you stink. And then they spit on Trae Young, which was obviously reprehensible. But we just made Trae Young out to be this guy who you like Trae Young. You sitting home, I mean, maybe you don't like Trae Young, but you probably don't view him as a villain. Trae Young's not the villain type. So what exactly is the narrative? Is it that Trae Young did incomprehensible things to the New York Knicks on a basketball court, and because it's the Knicks, it's the Mecca, the self-proclaimed hub of the Universe 6? Nobody likes the Knicks. Knicks fans don't even like Knicks. Who cares if Trae Young does that? He's a hero. What do you mean he's a villain? Everything he's doing. Literally every good player on any team gets booed on the road. Now, they don't always get things thrown at them or spit on or whatever, but like everybody gets this treatment. What is it? There is nothing villainous about Trae Young. Maybe you don't like the foul baiting sometimes, which actually, can I do a little thing real quick? Since the NBA is like starting to look into how they need to change officiating, and like when a player jumps into a defender and pretends to throw up a shot, like that's not going to be a foul anymore. This isn't exclusive to Trae Young, because obviously a good 75% of the players do it at least once every week or something like that. It's a really arbitrary percentage to throw out there, but you get what I mean. All players do it at some point. I wonder how it's going to impact scoring, because you look at a guy like James Harden, or honestly even Trae Young, where you draw all these attempts at the line. I wonder what their scoring is going to look like, or if they'll be able to adjust accordingly, which I imagine they would because they're professional basketball players, but still. Anyways, and another thing is like, are we just pretending that Trae Young is a villain because he's not Luka Doncic? And I don't know why, because every time Trae does anything awesome, or Luka does anything awesome, or hell, even DeAndre Ayton right now is playing phenomenally for the Suns. Literally any time that any of these guys do anything, we have to get comparative and weird and pretend that one of them is demonstrably better than the other one. Can I just introduce this school of thought? Why can't we just be like, wow, Dallas got what they needed, Atlanta got what they needed. Wow, Phoenix impressed. They probably could have used Luka, but it worked out because they're in the Western Conference Finals, and it looks like right now, I'm not going to knock on wood. I did that on a few videos ago, and I don't care. They look like they're probably going to go to the finals. They've won 8 in a row. So Trae Young's a villain because the franchise traded him, and it didn't end up the way that maybe it was supposed to because he's not Luka Doncic. He's Trae Young. That's awesome still. The way that he navigates a pick and roll, one of the biggest things that has come alive in his game, or at least on a national scale, people are starting to be like, wow, Trae Young, impressed, is his passing. And now this isn't really new because even at Oklahoma, obviously it was like this whole, oh my gosh, this guy, the adage was like, wow, this is the next Steph Curry, which we'll get to that in a second because that's weird too. His passing has been incredible. The way that he's able to find John Collins, that off-glass lob that he had to John Collins tonight was freaking wild. You get him running in transition, Trae Young in a half court, navigating, again, a pick and roll. Like, the dude is just off the charts. So, yeah, I don't know. If that guy's going to put up almost 50 points on the road in a playoff game, yeah, sounds pretty good to me. Just to backtrack on the little Steph Curry thing I just said, I know people, they liken him to Steph Curry or they liken him to James Harden, and they try to, make these comparisons and be like, listen, there are only two reasons why I think it's acceptable. This is a personal thing. This is just me, okay? Two reasons why you should ever be comparing any player to any other player. One, if it's the NBA draft and you're trying to convince fans, like, well, actually, I guess they kind of go hand in hand, points 1 and 2. If you're trying to convince somebody or sell somebody on a certain player, you can be like, well, he's like Steph Curry light, or he's like James Harden light. And you can, it's like how you can market a player to like maybe a casual fan. If you and I are just having a conversation, you're not that interested in basketball. You're like, Trae Young, I don't know that much about him. And you're like, well, Steph Curry, he just shoots a lot of threes and he's a really good scorer. He can get to his spots. He's really good at separation, all this stuff, this, that, and the third. Then it makes sense. But when you really consume the game, I just wish that we could be like Trae Young is his own thing. He's his own entity. Like Stephen A. Smith being like Devin Booker is the next Kobe Bryant. He's Devin Booker, and that's the end of it. Now, that's not to deny influence or that certain things that Kobe did, were emulated from Michael, or things that Book does were, taken from Kobe, which is by design. That's technically Jordan. But you get what I'm saying. I just feel like Devin Booker is his own product, and I just wish that we didn't have to like bring history into things. And am I making sense? Again, this is just a personal thing. It's just something that really, really bothers me. I also want to go back for just a second because I forgot the camera's over here. I want to go back for just a second. When you are an unequivocal moron such as myself, this is the problem with having followers or subscribers, of which I don't have a ton, but I have enough people that listen to me that if I say something stupid, people will get on me about it. Don't listen to anybody that you subscribe to or follow on any social media platform. I am here to entertain you. The things that I say, I will try to be as analytical as I can, and I will try to be as informative as I can. This is not secular music. This is not a secular video, okay? Anything that I say should not be taken as gospel. You shouldn't run to your friends and be like, well, this guy said this thing. I'm glad that people value my opinion. I am sincerely so happy that people will ask me certain questions and be like, can I get your thoughts on this? I love that people care to know that. But I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a guy with an internet connection. I'm wrong about things all the time. Now, I wasn't necessarily wrong about Trae Young. Like, these playoffs have really sort of shot him up the ladder for me, where I'm like, okay, all right. Now, I wasn't necessarily like the good stats, bad team guy. I wasn't that far, because I think if you can play, you can play. People did that with Booker for years, and look where that's gotten them. But if anything else, it's really just the Atlanta Hawks as a whole. Like, I thought this dribble handoff heavy offense I thought would just get run into the ground by Milwaukee. I should have accounted for the fact. I said I wasn't going to talk about this game much, but just using. I also think this model that Atlanta has, we talk about Memphis and we talk about how they've, accelerated their rebuild because they got Ja Morant and they've just drafted really, really well. We should probably be doing the same thing with the Atlanta Hawks because they've also gone out and got guys in free agency, or they trade for a guy like Lou Williams or while signing Rajon Rondo to then trade for, so free agency, that will also work too. The Bogdanovich thing, right? That obviously worked out. Shout out to Woj for messing that up for Milwaukee. But Atlanta just perfected this rebuild, and obviously it was accelerated like it was with Memphis with Ja Morant. Atlanta has Trae Young. Once you start to get those like 7-8 guys on a team, look at where I got them. Look at how far they're going, and it's mesmerizing. This Atlanta Hawks team deserves your attention. Trae Young deserves your attention. Everything that he's doing on the basketball court. I love when he's 35 feet from the rim. Okay, the basket is where I can't think of a joke. The basket is really far away. And you know that Trae Young is going to pull up because he puts his back and his knees really into it. And it feels like whenever he takes those shots, there's some in the shot. You know what I mean? Like you just really see him and it's just really funny to me. And it goes in a lot of the time too. That helps. I don't know that anything about Trae Young is villainous. I think it's just masterful and historical.